In any conflict, knowledge is power. Being able to communicate effectively and secretly with allies is always a challenge. And codes, ciphers, and code breakers have played a vital role in every conflict in history. It is unsurprising to know, therefore, that during World War II, the greatest minds of a generation were themselves engaged in decoding messages and listening in on enemy communications being transmitted around the world. But it's the lasting legacy of these secrets that is surprising. This is Bletchley Park in the centre of England. Today, it is open to the public and is very popular with visitors. But during the Second World War, very few people were authorised to come here because it was one of the most secretive places in the country and the base of the Government Code and Cipher School.
The people who worked here broadly came from virtually everywhere, but more specifically, many of them came from the major universities. They had them on standby, and the idea was that they would come in for courses and that sort of thing. One of the earliest people approached will have been Alan Turing, who was freshly back from the USA, where he just spent 2 years at Princeton University. And the courses would generally be timed for the university vacations, so then they could still do their university work, but train as potential code breakers.
This is the Enigma machine, the most famous wartime cipher machine in history. It was developed by the Germans at the end of the First World War. It used mechanical wheel settings to encrypt and make messages secure before sending them via Morse code. Using the work already done by Polish codebreakers, mathematicians Alan Turing and Gordon Welchman developed a machine called the bomb at Bletchley Park. This electromechanical device enabled the testing of all the possible settings of the Enigma machine to be done very quickly. By 1941, there were rooms full of these machines, standing nearly 2 meters tall and 2 meters wide. The deciphered messages were passed between the huts at Bletchley for translation and analysis, and then turned into intelligence reports. For security reasons, the huts were only known by their numbers, and whoever worked inside never spoke of whatever work they were doing.
The conditions here were, by modern office standards, rudimentary. I think there was a high degree of camaraderie. Lots of friends were made, but at the same time, overall and overriding was security. So your best friend could work in the next door office to you, but you wouldn't dream of talking to him or her about what they were doing.
Breaking Enigma is one of the most famous achievements of the team at Bletchley, but it was the work done on another German cipher machine, the Lorenz, that really laid the groundwork for modern-day computing. Enigma machines were used in the field to create secure everyday communications. But the Lorenz was a much more complex cipher machine, which was used for high-level strategic communications. The problem was that British intelligence had no idea what the Lorenz machine even looked like, let alone how it worked. But they did know that the intelligence value of breaking this code would be immense and would cause huge damage to the enemy. So Bletchley's most brilliant minds dedicated themselves to the task. And the end result of all this work was Colossus, the world's first large-scale electronic digital computer. While extremely limited by modern-day standards, it was a monumental breakthrough and reduced the time taken to break Lorenz messages from weeks to hours. The sheer size of Colossus is incredible. By the end of the war, there were 10 Colossus machines at Bletchley, being operated by female staff. And the intelligence gathered using these machines was absolutely pivotal in the war effort. So why on earth don't more people know about Colossus and about the men and many women who worked at Bletchley Park? So much of the progress made in the area of computing during the 1940s was simply lost at the end of the war. With the Cold War looming, there was a cover-up by the British to never reveal that Enigma and Lorenz had been broken. People never spoke of their time at Bletchley. Papers and plans were burnt, machines destroyed, and progress stalled for many years. The great minds who had worked together at Bletchley went back to universities in the UK and around the world. For decades, this groundbreaking work remained secret and unrecognised. It wasn't until 1975 that the first information emerged about the existence of Colossus, and it took another 30 years before the machine could be rebuilt. And it can be seen working today at the National Museum of Computing at Bletchley Park. It's impossible now to imagine how different the history of computing might have been if the veil of secrecy had been lifted in 1945 and the geniuses of Bletchley Park had been able to continue working together.